This is a Sytnon Syrinx, a ridiculously rare analog monophonic synthesizer from the 80s, made in the Netherlands by long-out-of-business Sytnon. They didn't make many of them, but its main claim to fame was its unique voltage-controlled Formant filter arrangement, consisting of two peak, aka bandpass filters, and one low-pass filter. These could be configured in a couple of different ways using its routing selection knob, or RTING to use their confusing abbreviation. Anyway, this triple filter arrangement, along with separate modulation for the bandpass and low-pass filters, allowed for some really out-of-the-ordinary sounds. It particularly excels at vocally type sounds, hence the Formant filter name. The Cherry Audio Lyrinx Filter for Voltage Modular precisely replicates the Syrinx filter and adds individual outputs for the bandpass and low-pass filters, as well as expanded CV inputs for the individual filters. It also costs about 1/1000% of what an actual Syrinx synth does these days, which is about as much as a car. Alright, so let's check out the Lyrinx filter. Right now I have it set up with a basic patch, just oscillator going into filter, going to the amplifier, and an envelope generator controlling this amplifier over here. And this envelope generator not doing anything at the moment, but we'll get to that later. And all the knobs in the Lyrinx filter are in their default positions. The VCF routing is set to 1 and 2, and we're only using input 1. Input 1 going into the peak filters and the low-pass filter. And if we play some keys on the keyboard, sounds pretty standard. I can change the cutoff on the peak filters. And we get a little bit of that bandpassy, vocally Formant thing, but if we turn up the resonance to about 60% on the two peak filters and start moving the cutoff, we're speaking. So rather than me moving the cutoff frequencies by hand, it makes much more sense to do it with an envelope generator. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and hook up two of these at once, because I'm cool. And now I'm going to turn up these CV attenuators a little bit. And we're pretty well talking. And we can also hook this up to the low-pass filter. And now I'm going to change the VCF routing. As mentioned, we were just going straight through the peak filters to the low-pass filter, but over here with this routing, we can go through the peak filters and skip the low-pass filter and kind of go separately through the low-pass filter, so let's switch to that. In fact, let me play a couple notes just so you can hear how it sounds different. So now we're not as thin because we're still getting the low-pass frequency going straight through. Switching back. Cranking the res up. More voltage control. And now I'm going to add another oscillator to beef up the sound. I'm going to option drag. And I'm not going to bother with a mixer. We'll just get an equal mix by plugging directly into this input over here. And we'll hook up the pitch CV. All right, now we're ready to party. So in that last patch, we were really just scratching the surface. In this one, I've kind of gone nutty, and I've added an oscillator. This one's low-pitched. This one's pretty high-pitched with an LFO controlling pitch. I've added a second envelope generator, and that one is just controlling the cutoff frequency of the low-pass filter, whereas this one is controlling the cutoff frequencies of the peak filters. And you can see these are set kind of differently. And I'm using the two inputs. One oscillator is going to one input, and the high oscillator is going to the second input over here. So you can see I'm using this routing over here. And this is what it sounds like. So that high square wave is kind of on its own over here with the low-pass filter. Whereas the low saw is talking its way through the peak filters. I've also hooked up the keyboard control voltage over here so that the higher I play up the keyboard, the more all of the frequencies open up, and over here you can actually set how much it does it. One unusual feature of the Lyrinx/Syrinx filter is the keyboard tracking can actually go to 200%, whereas most keyboards usually go up to 100% across the entire keyboard, whereas this, we can turn this all the way up to 200%. And as I play higher, it gets really bright. So as you can see, there's a lot of options here. I could sit here all day making crazy talking patches, but you get the idea. One other thing I want to hit real quick before I wrap it up is that this thing really likes distortion.